Welcome back to another episode of our Uncovering Possibilities content series, sponsored by Tech Secure Engagement. I'm joined by Jamil Hooper. Thank you so much for being with us.
Yeah, thank you for having me, Tyler. It's my pleasure.
Tell us a little bit about yourself and your professional work.
My current title here at the University of Texas is Industry Relations Manager for the School of Design and Creative Technologies program here on campus. And essentially, my role is to assist the students with career preparation, professional development, assisting them with the materials as they are going through this journey here in college and pursuing the careers that they're interested in, but essentially helping them with any materials that is going to help them with that transition. And at the same time, I build relationships with employers and nurture and cultivate those relationships to understand what their organizations do, what type of candidates they might be looking for, some of the skills that they're looking for in those candidates, and also, how our students can get involved in those organizations. And I'm the bridge between the two of those audiences there. Very rewarding. Prior to my role here as industry relations, I was at Ogechi School of Culinary Arts, where I was doing the exact same thing, but for culinarians in the field. I can't cook boiled water, but I can definitely help young students find career paths, right, based on what they're interested in. Previous to the role at Ogechi School of Culinary Arts, where I was a career services advisor, I was in the sales realm. So I graduated with a bachelor's degree in communications from Prairie View A&M University. I thought I was going to go into advertising, into radio and television. I found myself, looking for work just to be able to pay back my loans. And I fell into the sales realm. It was a stretch for me just because I was quite the introvert at the time. And I didn't realize that was going to be, kind of the foundation for some of the skills that are needed in this role right here, as far as being able to build relationships, understand businesses, small and medium and large businesses, understanding their pain points, understanding what the industry or their particular space looks like, and being able to just provide solutions based on that information that they shared with me. So that's essentially where I learned that formula in the sales realm here in the education realm. But I went through that transition from sales because of some layoffs. I learned a lot through that whole experience of the corporate world. And then I found myself at the Art Institute of Austin, where that was actually my first experience in education. I had someone that knew me from Dell Incorporated is where I went as a sales rep, but knew me from that space, knew that had an artistic background, and knew that I loved working with people, and knew that I had this sales background as well. And I was offered a position as career services advisor at the Art Institute of Austin, where I was coaching students from different programs, including, graphic design, fashion and retail management, photography, culinarians, so on and so forth. And I did that, developed my skills in educating students more. And then I went through another layoff there at the Art Institute of Austin, which led me to Ogechi School of Culinary Arts, where I was a career services advisor. From there, I was advising students, and an opportunity here at the University of Texas came up, really exciting for me. Come to find out, there was some faculty here that I had relationships with prior at the Art Institute of Austin, and it just seemed like a phenomenal fit, just with my background, with the direction that the program was hoping to take. And with all of that said, here I am advising students.
So for those of us that are unfamiliar with the School of Design and Creative Technologies, can you go ahead and tell us a little bit about it?
Yeah, the School of Design and Creative Technologies program is pretty new. I think it's eight or 9 years old now, but it houses two programs, which is design and then arts and entertainment technologies. From the design aspect of the program, there are graduate programs that I advise as well, which is the MFA in design and the MA in design focused in health program. So with all of these programs that's housed under the School of Design and Creative Technologies program, I assist both undergraduate and graduates from these programs. But we are a program that prepares our students for those future jobs. Many of them are going into the field as, from the design aspect, experienced designers, service designers, strategists, UI, UX designers, people that are designing systems and experiences that are useful for any industry, right? And then from the arts and entertainment technologies side, where most of those students are pursuing careers in immersive experience, AR, VR. A lot of them are wanting to go into the game development or game design. Most industries and most companies that are developing roles for the future are understanding that some of these creative skill sets that these students are acquiring in design or even in arts and arts as it relates to technology, that skill set extremely important. So our students are extremely prepared and set up for success with those types of roles there. There's so many different types of opportunities that our students can explore with the skill sets they're receiving from our program. So our program is just looking to kind of get an idea of what the industry standards are, what those future jobs look like, what these company initiatives are, and how our students creatively can be plugged in to some of those, those initiatives there.
Do you have a lot of conversations with folks, with students in particular, that are considering careers in academia, trying to figure out this private industry thing? They don't necessarily imagine that they were going into an industry position. They're trying to figure out how to keep a foot in both doors. What are those conversations like with students that you might have?
Yeah, most of those conversations are usually at a graduate level. Some of them have previous experience in academia and are looking and received this bachelor's or a master's degree, and now are looking to go back into academia with some of the skills or information that they've received from the program. And a lot of them, are learning. Like, for instance, we have MFA in design graduates that are learning these things like user research and experience design, and they're looking to teach that at some level. But just understanding, where it is they might want to go, and understanding how to read some of those job descriptions and how to provide examples in some of the classes that they've taken, or some of the examples in the portfolios that they've or some of the projects that they've put together. And really understanding how to articulate how that can correlate into a classroom as a professor. But that's kind of generally, how those conversations are structured. Just really understanding, what types of positions, positions in academia they're looking to apply for, and really understanding how to really tailor their materials and tailor their message to that audience based on what they might be looking for in that description. Also, I'm part of several faculty hiring committees here within the program. So getting them, having them understand what that process, that onboarding process, or that interview process might look like for someone that's going into academia, just from my experience and from what from the discussions we have. After, that person maybe performs that demo or performs in an interview, and then give that feedback based on some of that experience. So,
what sorts of common advice do you give for folks that come to you and they've always been in academia? Maybe these are current graduate students and they're looking at these job descriptions and they're looking to make the jump. I mean, when you sit down with most of these students, do they center around the same sorts of things that they're trying to do, or things that they need to address their materials to look a certain type of way?
Yeah. So, the general feedback and general information, general direction or advice that I give them is to truly understand, the job description and the company themselves or the school itself, and really, really getting an understanding of where they would be wanting to go, what's important to that organization or that employer, and then understanding the gist of the job description, bullet point by bullet point, and really being able to, clearly and concisely um, articulate what it is they are doing or what it is they've done is related to what they're asking for. I always say it's that simple, but it's not easy, right? But if you can effectively, any student, and this is from anybody wanting to go from academia to to industry or vice versa. I give this advice to undergraduate to graduate level, and this is in any career. And I know I feel and I've seen that it's been applicable, but being able to confidently and effectively articulate how what you have done or what you are doing translate to what they're asking for, very, very specifically, in a way to where they can see you in that room or in that position doing what it is they're asking for, you to do. That's key right there. Having them being able to envision that based on how you describe what it is you do, or in the portfolio work that you might be submitting, or in the materials that you're submitting. Right now, in this day and age with social media, it's all about branding as well, right? And not only as a creative, right? As a musician, as a engineer, it doesn't matter who you are, what profession you're in. From my experience, your brand and who you are, and how you position yourself, and your brand as you're searching, is really, really key, because people create impressions based on how they feel are presenting what it is you do, right? And if there's specific examples that they can relate to, that they feel provide some kind of idea that you have the potential to do well in that particular role, that's all that they're looking for, that you have the fundamental skills. And then during the interview, are you a good culture fit? Are you going to work well with their team? Are you going to be somebody that they can sit down and have a coffee with outside of work, so on and so forth, right? So you're just trying to build that credibility throughout that process as you're applying for these positions.
It doesn't sound like you necessarily predicted that you would be in a job like this, when you were
No,
going through college. So I just
no,
love to sort of about, how these different forks in the road have taken you to where you are now. And if you could kind of
yeah.
look back on your college self, or, what sorts of things you would tell yourself.
Yeah, it's funny that you say that, because I think about that daily, and it comes up quite often in conversations with students as they sit down in my office, or we're working through problems via Zoom. And it's very common, obviously, to have a student that is just uneasy about what the next step looks like and what they should be doing, and what post college looks like, and trying to make that transition. And I just remember that feeling in college, and of not knowing, right? And also not understanding, where to start, right? So, during college, back in my day, right, we didn't have these types of resources where there was a professional that was put into position to specifically help you with that transition from college to career. It was just a matter of, you got a degree, good luck to you. And I definitely think about what I wish I would have had then, and what I had to figure out on my own. And also, I was very blessed to have a father in my life that coached me, and was a huge part of my professional development. And I think that that's kind of where my interest in education and teaching started, was with my dad. He spent 25 years in the Air Force, and he retired and moved into civilian life, and started from a security guard at Dell, riding the car, and touring the parking lot, and networking his way up, and working his way up to be a facilitator and a motivational coach and speaker to executives and CEOs, and travel the world for Dell, to teach some of these fundamental skills that he instilled in me as far as professional development, how to lead a team, how to brand yourself, so on and so forth. So I heard a lot of that growing up. Finding my first job out of college in the sales, it was pretty much I need money to pay my bills and pay my debt, my student loan debt, which most, if not all, students are facing, right? And that's extremely daunting. It was just a matter of just getting my feet in somewhere where I can have some type of income coming in while I figure out what it is I wanted to do. And as I was working in sales and developing these relationships at Dell, I found that there were some skills that I was developing that I took on very easily. I was a natural people person. I felt like I could build relationships very, very quickly on the phone by creating some commonality through conversation and understanding and asking a lot of questions and getting that person comfortable with me. So that way, whatever it is I was providing in a solution, they knew that it was coming from a place of authenticity and not BS, right? And I think that was an extreme. I mean, I think that was an important skill that I developed. And then just navigating through the corporate world of Dell, of finding ways to develop skills that I knew would help me move forward in the industry. Those skills in sales at Dell helped me realize how important it was for me to understand how to just navigate through corporate world in itself. And then after the layoff, based on the relationships that I developed, I was afforded an opportunity in education because I voiced my interest in it, right? And I had people that looked out for me to where I was able to explore these opportunities in education. So that's how I transitioned from sales into the in education realm. And then from there it's history, right? I went through Art Institute of Austin, then Auguste Escoffier, and now here at UT.
Mm.
I've had a lot of odd jobs since before then, but I don't count there. It was like I worked at Walmart. I remember working Walmart during college and even in high school, pushing carts for $6 an hour. I was a waiter during summers or even in the evenings at like IHOP and Cheddar's. I remember how hard those roles were, but again, every single job, every single experience that I had developed a skill that is something that was needed for me to be successful in a role like this, right? And also for me to be empathetic to those who are in those industries, or understanding how to have those types of conversations with those who can relate. It all came full circle, and I'm very, very happy that I had somebody in my life, my dad, he's actually right here on my wall, that really guided me and encouraged me to just trust the process, right? I say that every single day in every single conversation that I have with a student. You have a strategy and there are specific habits and tasks that you know that you need to do on a daily basis and a weekly basis and a monthly basis. And if you execute those to the best of your ability, no matter what, the outcome will come. That's transferable, right? That's in the gym, looking for a job. That's whatever it is you can think of. Trusting the process is key.
I want to steer the conversation a little bit into this idea of a portfolio career. I mean, we've spoken
Yeah.
to a handful of people now, and both their work and really potentially what they advise their students as well is this idea of doing multiple things, or essentially building a career in academia that also includes some things potentially out in the community or with industry. So
Mhm.
I'm just curious, do you have conversations with students in particular that are interested in that path, or maybe you advise them to consider a more portfolio career versus a more typical 9 to 5 that I feel like we may have seen from previous generations?
I advise those who have, a list of different experiences or skill sets or different things that they're dabbling in, to really find how all of those things maybe are connected, really understanding what is really driving them, career wise, like what is they're wanting out of their career, and then coaching them accordingly. And then, trying to understand how any of those things that they've done can be applicable. They'd be most interested in doing, especially graduate students that have quite a bit that they've done, knowing how to, harness all of that into one direction that they're wanting to take. So it's just a matter of really kind of getting down to, asking a lot of questions about, why they did, certain things, right? What was their purpose at that particular time, what they learned from it, what they got from it, why they made that transition, and what they're hoping to do next, right? Just trying to make all of those things make sense in a way to where a lot of times they come up with their own answer, right? That's a lot of my approach as well, is not necessarily just saying, advising in a way and telling them what to do based on what they're sharing with me, but asking questions that they need to maybe hear answers to, and then them coming up with the answers themselves based on what, as far as their career direction or trajectory, right? So, and I think that's probably been the most effective in my coaching, is really having them come to their own answer of what it is they want to do with their career based on the portfolio.
You can't possibly know about every single individual student's interests, experience,
Mhm.
and tell them exactly what to do. They do have to sort of conjure up what a good path forward is for themselves. So
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
prompting through questions is the best way.
Yeah. And it's funny when they do come up with that answer and you see the excitement and they come back and maybe follow up with a direction that they've chosen. They had the answer all along. And I jokingly say, you don't need me, because I tell them, you have the juice. I just stir it up. You have the answers. I just, try to get you to think about things that you might not necessarily think about, or play devil's advocate, or make them consider things that maybe might be uncomfortable to consider, right? Sometimes those types of questions and those types of answers that they give themselves can help them, career wise, help them with the decision. And also not only what to build on, but also what to let go of. I think a lot of those individuals that have those large portfolios or have this extensive experience have spent so much time doing X, and they don't want that to go to waste, right? They're frightened to pivot or change or start over, or question if it was something that they really wanted to do. Some of those conversations are conversations that help them come to an answer. It's funny, a lot of these coaching sessions that revolve around career turn into things a lot more deeper than just your career, right? Because again, personal life comes into play, your spouse or your partner, children, where you want to live, things that you're feeling about yourself, and inadequacies. All of these things play a part in how we are making our decisions in our career. I try to uncover some of those things that are underlying that might help them with their decision. Is a student doing this because their parent is saying, go do this, right? Versus something that's really something that they really want to do? Or are they looking at this job opportunity because they see the amount of money that is offered, but do they realize what they're going to get themselves into based on that check that they're chasing? Or an opportunity that might not pay as much, but it's a nurturing and wonderful environment and culture that they would flourish in, and that would be a stepping stone towards something bigger. Understanding these things, really giving them some insight to and thinking about those things that they might not necessarily thinking about, are things that I try to uncover during my sessions.
And actually, it's a really great segue into our last question. I mean, you've used the word uncover now multiple times, which is half the name of the content series that we're creating, called Uncovering Possibilities. So, knowing that this video and interview is going to be watched by not only designers, but people that work in visual arts, musicians, et cetera, that are trying to figure out what that next step is going to look like, which may include working in academia, industry, or maybe a combination of both of those. Do you have any final words of advice or wisdom that you want to share with people that are listening?
Sure. Yeah, I would definitely reiterate, trust the process. Trusting the process and executing on those small tasks that might seem minute and meaningless in that moment, but in a larger scale of your goal and what you're hoping to accomplish. Executing those tasks and on those strategies and those habits are key to the bigger picture. My father would say, tell me how you do the small things, and I can tell you how you do the big things, how you organize your space. That's how you deal with ambiguity. All of these little things that on a daily basis kind of make you who you are, that you face as you're trying to find your way. I would say, really, really pay attention to those small things and trust the process. I would also say that everything essentially works out, right? Everything's going to be okay. And that sounds really, really plain and maybe not very inspirational, but things will pan out. If you execute and you trust the process, things will happen in time. It might not happen tomorrow. It might not happen next week or next month or next year, but eventually the outcome will be as it should. I would also advise those people to identify a mentor, identify people who are doing well, that they trust to give them great feedback, but also find those people that are going to tell you or some of the difficult things that you need to hear, not necessarily finding those who are just going to co-sign the things that you feel and you believe, but also who will challenge those things and who will share maybe things that are uncomfortable for you to know about yourself or know in general. That's where the growth is, right? But identify those mentors, identify those people. They're going to light that fire and be your advocate and be a light as you're trying to figure out your way. I think the biggest one, trust your process and everything will be okay.
Jamel, thank you so much for taking the time to talk with me. This has just been really wonderful.
Thank you, Tyler. I really appreciate I appreciate the conversation.